Do not underestimate the importance of this part of the guitar building process. If you'd like to follow the process of turning a block of wood like this into a guitar like this, then you've come to the right place. And if you would like to see me give this guitar away, click subscribe, hit the bell. Yeah, I just have to sand in between on this, and then I'm going to be spraying this again. Where those shiny spots are, that's where there's a little bit of a dip left in the wood yet. We have got two pieces of very quilted maple.
No, it's quilted.
Yeah, it's quilted. Yeah, very nice quilting. So I made a few mistakes here and there like that, where the wood or something just didn't work out. And with a quality, expensive, nice wood like this, I really don't want to mess anything up. I now have 22 coats of polyurethane on here. I have got it sanded down to 3000 grit sandpaper. All those little light spots that I told you about on the last episode that I wanted to make sure were gone are gone. I'm going to talk you through today how I get the glassy, polished, shiny look on these guitars. There are better ways to do this than the way I do it. I promise you that. If you have a buffing wheel, which I do not, that is much preferred. I don't have a buffing wheel, so I do it this way. I use these sponge heads that go on a drill. It's a light restoration kit, and I use the sponge portion of them. They will be damp as I'm using them. I use Wizard's Turbo Cut compound. This is the Turbo Cut, this is the faster cut. I use this first, and I'll use that with this sponge. I will then use this sponge. I will change the sponges out so I don't have any residue of the Turbo Cut on there, and I will use my finish cut and a different sponge. Then, I'm still not done. After I do that, I will wrap one of these micro, really soft cloths around one of these, and I will use this along with some finish cut to buff it. So I'm just going to do a quick montage and let you watch me do this rapidly, and then it takes a lot of cleanup afterwards because there's this compound on it and you got to get rid of that. And I also have this buffing wheel, this one and this one, to get into the little nooks and crannies as I need to. Okay, so now in between, I'm going to polish it with a microfiber cloth that's clean. Got to make sure that there's nothing on there that could damage. And actually with that one, there's a little piece of something there, so I will get rid of that one. Check this one out. To clean it off in between so that I don't have any residue left over of this turbo cut when I go to do the fine cut. Now, if you were paying close attention, you'll notice that I only did about up to here on the neck, and I did down to about here on the neck. I sand this to about 1500 grit sandpaper and then leave it. It's a personal preference. I like to have a matted finish on my neck, so that's what I do. So as I clean that off, there'll still be a little bit, you can still see a little sheen to it, but it's not going to be polished like what you'll start to see here. So if I start to polish this up, get it cleaned off. This is going to take me a little bit, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I get this all cleaned off just a little better. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see the sheen on it or the shine, whatever. This is after using the turbo cut, and then I will now use the finish cut. So using the finish cut looks the exact same as using the turbo cut. Instead of making you watch that again, we'll just jump ahead to when I'm done with the finish cut. pretty much have it polished up. I still need to clean it. I'll have to get the Q-tips out, clean on the inside here and clean in there. Yeah, for the most part, getting much, much closer. I will use an oil on the fretboard here. The other thing is, I now know who it's gonna go to. So it does have an owner. I got the wood in today.
Is it sexy?
It's some really nice wood.
But what if we stained the guitars with gold particles, like gold flake in the grain,
Mm-hmm.
and then clear coat that?
Well, if you're watching this channel and you ever notice that there's a sudden change of t-shirts that I'm wearing, it means one of two things. Either it's another day, or my saucy meatloaf rolled off my plate as I sat down on the couch, and it rolled down my shirt, rolled down my pants, rolled down the couch and onto the floor, and gave me about 45 minutes worth of work. And then the dog ran away thinking she was in trouble because there was a mess on the floor and it was my fault. That may or may not have happened. Actually, it did happen, but not this time. It's just another day. But today, gonna be working on a fun aspect of the guitar building process. Do not underestimate the importance of this part of the guitar building process. Make sure that when you lay out your template on the body blank, that you do a lot of examination and discerning and figuring out how you want the pattern to be. And there's a lot to think about, more than just thinking about the grain pattern. What I would really like to be able to do is to get 2 of these bodies on here. But it's important to closely examine your wood. Now, there are a few things to think about. Some of these things are not as big of a deal as others. Let me show you first some of the smaller things that I'm looking at. We've got some knots here and here and here. So as I take into consideration the beauty of the wood, now the curly on this, or the quilted on this, is just unbelievable. And if you could see this in person, because I really don't think the camera will show it, there is a 3-dimensional look. First thing I'm doing is I'm looking at the grains and how do I want the grains to look on the guitar itself. This isn't really a template. This is just allowing me to kind of look at the grains and how the grains might look in the body if I were to move it around, see some things. Now, as I said, I'm trying to get 2 out of here if possible, which would require me to have at least one of them this way, and then another one that would be this way. But then I did some close examination and looking at this closely, and this is where these come in handy. These aren't actually glasses, they're readers, so they're a magnified glass, which helps you to see better. Right here, we've got ourselves a crack, and I'm going to I'll mark this crack. That crack comes up to here. I can see definite crack, but just because it stops there, you should still be concerned about this up to here or a little ways. Looking on both sides, the crack seems to stop here, but this could be a troubled area. This is something you absolutely do not want to end up in a guitar body, is you do not want any cracks, because can you imagine putting 100 hours into building your guitar and getting it all put together, and then after a year, there's a crack that appears and keeps developing. And just looking at it close, checking it, seeing, I'm probably safe at about here, but I still want to be cautious. Still going to examine it more. However, this next board under here, I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see this with the camera or not. Maybe right here is your best bet. It wasn't until I put these magnifying glasses on, which are just like a 1.5, I noticed there's a crack here, and I start to follow it. And then I look on the other side. So let's flip this over. I'm just going to move that here. Flip this over. So here's the crack, kind of. You see, I mean, these knots are kind of an issue anyway, but there's crack here. And then on this side, you can definitely see where that crack is there from here to here. But a real close examination and looking at it underneath the right lights, I can see that this crack starts up in here and it comes all the way down. It is a very fine crack. but it's there. And that, we're looking at about 4 inches. So make sure that when you're examining your wood, you're looking for things like this as you begin to set up how you're going to lay the guitar out. So now let's see if there's any way that we can establish 2 guitar bodies on here. I know that I can for sure get one really good one, but let's see if there's any way that I might be able to get 2. So I've been flipping it back and forth, and of the 2 sides on this piece of wood, I definitely prefer this side as opposed to this side. So whether this will end up being a back piece or a front piece, if I'm looking to get 4 body blanks out of these, as an example, if I were, which I don't know if it's going to be possible on this one. This one's probably going to just be 1 body blank, likely. But let's say these pieces were perfect, both of them, and I was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4 body blanks out of it. What I need to be doing is thinking in my mind, is this going to be a front or a back? Is this going to be a front or a back? Because if I take, let's say this is a front on this one, and let's say this is a back, well then this as a back, this is going to be what would show on the back. If this is going to be a front, then I would actually need to have this flipped this way so that it would be like that. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta know what's front, what's back. I don't want to waste my best quality quilting on the back side of the guitar if I can put it on the front side of the guitar. Let me show you what I've got here. This one is really good. This one is a little iffy. This one is very nice. This one cannot be here like it is. And I'll show you what's up with that. There's a knot here. You can see those knots right there. However, that's where my pickup would go. So that would be cut out there, so there would be no knots in this portion, and they're not pretty knots, so they're not ones that I would want to keep, and we're not looking for a guitar that's got knots in it. This one could potentially be all right. If these knots are there, this would end up being a back as opposed to a front, because again, they're not really an attractive knot. If I'm going to get another guitar body out of this same piece of wood, if I'm going to do 2, this is going to be in the back. If I only had to worry about doing 1 guitar body, I'd probably put it somewhere in here. Let's see, somewhere like that. And I would just use this one center area, which is the nicest, and not have to deal with the knots. But I am trying to get 2 bodies out of this. So this would be a back. This would be a front as it is. That's nice. This one, absolutely beautiful. There's no issues, there's no cracks, and actually as I look down it, these lines go nicely with the body. By the way, we've got a saving grace here in that these are 1 front solid piece of wood. A lot of times you're going to be book matching the wood, or you've got 2 pieces of wood that come together and you've got a center seam. That center seam needs to stay the center of the guitar. So if this were book matched, or if this were butterflied or book matched and there was a center seam down this, then I could not put this guitar body the way it is. It would have to set so that the center of this guitar, center here and center here, lined up with the center of where those 2 pieces of wood came together. But this is 1 solid front, so I don't have to worry about it. That's a saving grace for me. so I can skew these just a little bit on this wood. So I've got one really good one here, I've got one fantastic one here, I've got a pretty decent back here. This one right now is unusable. The reason why this one is unusable is that one, I've got this crack that came up to here, but then even coming in this way, I've got these two little knots here that are ugly, and they're on the edge and they go all the way through the body. So it's not like you're going to be able to cut off at an angle or something and not have to worry about that part. That won't work. The only way this is going to work is if I can scoot the whole guitar further this way and not bother this one. What I want to do though, before I try getting this one out of here, which I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to sneak a body in here or not, I am going to cut this one out because I don't want to lose what I have here. So I'm going to make sure to cut this one. I'll cut it close to this line. So I will use a saber saw to cut up through here. I'm going to stay as closer to this one as I can, but I've got to leave some room for the blade and for some jaggedness, because I will come back around with a router with a template to shape this up. The line that you see here should disappear with the router. So the thickness of the line is on that side of the actual guitar body itself. There's a tight area here. I'm going to cut this body piece out first to make sure that I have this. I want this guitar body to be a front. And then I will use what I've got left over here and see if I can shimmy this to get another body out of this piece of wood. Otherwise, it sounds like I do have another piece of wood on the way. So if this doesn't work, I do have another one on the way that I'll be able to use. This really throws it off though. So beautiful piece of wood, but you got a couple spots. And you got to think about that because it's going to change the whole feel and layout of what you do. But it is so nice to have full width that I am able to get some really nice solid fronts here. And again, this is going to be a really nice back. I've got myself set up and prepared now to cut these two pieces out. This is the one that is really, really good that I really like. This is the one that I'm hoping to save enough wood that I can get another body out of it. That's touch and go. We'll see how that goes. I want to show you a few little things about setting up and making sure that you're set to do this well. I've got my saber saw, and this is going to be my first cut. I'm just going to cut these apart, and I can come right up to the line. I don't want to cross this line for sure. I'm going to cut around here, leaving enough wood that I hope to get enough off of this. I've got a brace underneath here, and then as I cut part of this, I've got another one ready to go underneath this part so that it doesn't put pressure on the wood. And this would, if this were to break apart and fall, you can take a hunk of wood out, chip it away. You don't want to do that. So make sure everything is supported well so it doesn't fall away, chip, break, peel wood away from what you want to use. I find with a hardwood, I use a blade that is meant for cutting metal. It's much, much slower in the cut, but I don't get chipping coming out near as bad with it. I get a nicer, smoother cut, a nicer line, so I'm not worried about pulling chips of wood out. So I use that metal blade. It's slower, but it gives me a cleaner cut. You can hear the equipment in the background. Obviously, I do a lot of this outdoors. I don't have a good shop to work in. That's okay. You make do with what you got, right? This is obviously just the rough cut, and then I will be using the router with the template to get really, really good clean lines. You can save yourself a lot of time sanding if you have a good router and you can just route off of a template. Saves you a lot of time. So now we're going to find out just how lucky or unlucky we are with this. Let's see if we can get another body out of this one. We're going to have some room. Oh, not that way. Ah. Oh my. I think, can I go this way? Can't go that way at all. And this, check this out. Wait till you see this, guys. Right to the edge there, right to the edge there, right to the edge here, right to the edge up here, and I'm on this side. Now there's a little tiny bit of a knot there, but that's kind of a nice knot actually. And looking at it, it's more of just another, in fact on this side, here, it's not even a knot, it's just this right in here, this little swirl area here. I think I might just eke by with getting a body blank out of this. However, if I've got a nice piece, another nice piece of wood that doesn't have the threat. Now this crack came up to about in here, and I gave it a little extra space there. Got about 1.5 inches between those two from where the crack stops to where the body would be here. And I'm on the other side of these knots because these knots are a problem. But the crack, these knots would stop right there. But this crack, if left to go, could continue all the way up. I think I would be okay. Barely, but I think I would be okay. Where I'm at with the guitars right now, I am sanding down Tony's guitar, making sure that's ready, and then I'm going to stain that one. That one, you are going to see me working on that one and building it, but not until after it's done. Once it's done and I put it in Tony's hands, then you're going to be able to see kind of a quicker montage of me putting that together. I just don't want to finish it off on camera before he gets it, because I want it to be a little bit of a surprise so that he doesn't know quite what to expect. And I am working on these guitars now. Chapter 2 of Let's Build a Guitar. I will finish cutting out these other bodies. I will cut them roughly with the saber saw. And then next week we will use a router and a template and get those all nicely cleaned up. Hey guys, thanks for joining me once again. Again, thank you Patreons and those who are supporting. Thank you for those of you who are willing to take the extra effort to go over and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Appreciate all the positive comments. And hey, we'll catch you next time.